He llegado aquí a un sitio ecológico que llama Gimbo Limbo. También es el nombre de un árbol medicinal eh, que es original de Centroamérica, de Yucatán, México y Brasil y Sudamérica. Un árbol que se usa para cuestiones medicinales. Ok, aquí estamos pues, este centro es especialmente dedicado a la ecología. Y la misión de este lugar también es para educar sobre el cuidado de la costa y el ecosistema marino. Vamos a ver qué nos enseña este lugar. También tengo entendido que tiene criaderos de tortugas y tiene una linda playa y vegetación hermosa. Vamos a ver pues qué podemos obtener de este lugar.
I've been a volunteer for 3 years here at Gumbo Limbo. This is the fish feeding presentation, but before we do that, I want to tell you a little bit about the center. Gumbo Limbo is very involved in conservation, education, community involvement, and research. So we're not just another pretty face with aquarium. We do a lot of work here. How many know that we are actually standing on a barrier island? Anybody? Well, we are. We came over the intercoastal by the Spanish River Bridge or by Palmetto Bridge, putting on a barrier island. Now, a barrier island is simply a bunch of sand that separates the ocean, in this case the Atlantic Ocean, from a lagoon or the intercoastal. It is kept in place by all of the mangroves, sea graves, the gumbo, limbo, and the tropical hammock that you see growing on it. But it still changes shape over time. Now, because of our unique location, we bring in the salt water from the ocean underneath A1A through our filters and into our 4 tanks. It then flows out into the intercoastal. So we have a continuous flow all day long. This provides the most authentic environment for our fish. All the fish you see here today are from the South Florida area, and as you were snorkeling or diving in the intercoastal or in the ocean, you would see these fish. There's approximately 500 fish in our 4 aquariums and about 100 different species. Now we're going to focus on the mangrove, but we do have 3 other tanks. The one right behind me is the near shore. Just like its name states, you find it in less than 30 feet of water, and you'll find it a couple of yards, maybe 100 yards offshore. This is where our juvenile fish hang out before they venture out into the coral reef. Now the coral reef you can see over in the next pavilion, and that's where you're going to see your most colorful fish and the greatest diversity. 25% of all marine life depends on the coral reef for food and shelter, but only 0.1% of the ocean floor has coral reefs, and they're diminishing by the day. We really need to protect them seriously. And then our last habitat is the shipwreck. It's an artificial shipwreck, and that's where you're going to see our biggest fish, our tarpons and our barracudas, and a whole variety of a lot of fish, our snook and mangroves. But we're going to focus today on the mangroves. We have 3 species of mangroves in South Florida. They're named after colors. Anyone want to take a guess at one of them?
Colors.
Red! Yay! She got it. Red is the one you're going to most likely identify with. It's the one that has those big prong roots that go out into the waterways. You find them all along the inlets and the intercoastal. Those prong roots make it look like it's walking across the water, which gets its nickname, the walking tree. Now it has a really cool adaptation because growing in salt water is very difficult. The roots have a coating on them that filters out 90% of the salt so that these trees can grow here. Now these red trees are really wonderful because those roots provide a great hiding place for young fish and for collecting food and slowing down the water flow. That's why we call this the nursery of the sea. This tank is about 16,000 gallons. Now, behind the red mangrove is the black mangrove tree. That's our second species. And it's really cool because when it gets too much salt in its system, it scrapes it on the back of its leaves, so it has a salty back. Black, salty back. Now, Indians and indigenous people years ago would scrape off that salt to use as seasoning on their food. So it has a very good use. And then the last mangrove we have in Florida is the white mangrove. That's what you'll see in the tropical hammock. It's a little less common, a little harder to identify. Now the black mangrove will also have the metaphors. Those are snorkel-like roots that come up around the base of it. And what's neat about that is when the water comes in over the black mangrove, those snorkel roots do just what they sound like. They bring in air and nutrients to the tree. So those are our three species. Now, they have a lot of benefits. Besides providing a home for our fish, they also slow down the water flow, they collect sediment, and they are what's called a carbon sink. They will take out more carbon dioxide out of the air than a rainforest of the exact same size. Now, unfortunately, the mangroves occupy the best real estate in town, and they get cut down. In Florida, we have very strict rules about it. You get heavily fined if you're caught cutting down a mangrove, even trimming it unless you get special instructions and a permit. Now, there's a lot of threats to it. You know, the water and the runoff from the roads eventually makes its way into the waterways, and these pollutants are terrible for our trees. Because of the roots that hang out and the snorkel roots that come up, they trap the trash that gets thrown overboard. That trash breaks down, and fish and turtles think it's part of the food chain, and they eat it. And of course, then that becomes malnourished, and many of them will die because of the trash. Also, chemicals you use in your lawn, they get rinsed out through the soil, and they make their way into the waterway. So there's a lot of threats to our mangroves. If you ever get a chance and can participate in a cleanup, that would be super. We have a couple R's that we like to promote. That is reuse, recycle, reduce, and refuse to use single-use plastics. So if people remember the 4 R's, you'd be doing a whole lot to help our environment. I'm going to pause now so that Clara can feed our fish, and then I'll talk about some of the fish we have in our aquarium. We are feeding them krill, cut up silver size, and some pigment today. We also, to replace it, we put some garlic powder on it because that's an antioxidant for the fish. So they get a special treat with that. People often want to know why don't they eat each other, because you can see the different sizes in there, and that's because we feed them every day. In the wild, they may go 2 or have anything to eat. But here, they get fed every single day, which means there's no reason for them to then have to eat each other. So that's very important. None of these fish are releasable. They're all here for educational purposes, and they are permanent residents here. You can see a variety of species in here. We have the sheep's head, the big black and white striped one. He gets his name from the sheep's head because he has a mouth like you and I and like a sheep. Big incisor-like teeth in the front, molars in the back. That allows him to pull and scrape off bivalves like barnacles and scallops and eat them and crush them with his back teeth. We have 3 hard-headed or 4 hard-headed catfish in here. You can identify them. They're a long gray body with 3 little barbels on either side of their mouth, and they have to swim in a school. We also have some snook, some grunts, a couple puffer fish, and I can't forget Lefty, our Kemp's Ridley sea turtle. The Kemp's Ridley sea turtle is the smallest of the 7 species of sea turtles. Lefty is 30 years old, and he is full grown. Now, if you want to see more turtles and find out about more turtles, we have a talk and a conservation program at 1 o'clock at the shipwreck tank. And you'll get to meet Morgan and Lady McNubbins. They are green sea turtles. I'll stay around, and Sharon and I will be happy to answer any questions that you might have. But I hope you enjoy the rest of your day at Gumbo Limbo. and I hope you have been inspired to be a steward of our marine and coastal waterways. I'll see you at 1 o'clock at the shipwreck tent.
Aquí podemos ver la corteza del árbol, que la cual es usada para propósitos medicinales. Es usado para muchas enfermedades y que supuestamente es curativo. Yo les sugiero a ustedes que vayan al internet y busquen pues sobre este árbol. Gumbo limbo es el nombre de este árbol, y van a ver pues las características que tienen este árbol para propósitos medicinales. Aquí podemos ver los caminos que hay pues elevadizos, y al fondo pues podemos apreciar pues las raíces de los árboles. Este sitio fue descrito por primera vez en 1870, cuando se conocía como Boca Ratón Hammocks. Su extremo norte estaba delimitado por la franja costera y era una zona plana con matas de avena marina, ciruelas, coco y uvas de playa. Aquí podemos ver parte de la bahía y los manglares blancos que le llaman. Se puede observar la cantidad de manglares que hay, comienzan a salir de acá. Aquí seguimos caminando por acá, por los puentes, por los muelles que tienen aquí, para llevarnos hasta el fondo. Aquí también se habita mucho el pájaro carpintero. Espero pues que podamos ver alguno de ellos. Ellos aquí tienen mesas para picnic, y obviamente bajo el sol si usted quiere también, o bajo la ramada. También les quiero informar que el precio de venir aquí es absolutamente gratis. No tiene que pagar ningún dinero para entrar ni para parquear. Y si usted quiere hacer alguna donación, la hace. Y entonces también si quiere pedir un guía, ellos se lo dan. Entonces aquí hay también lugar para pescar. Aquí está la mesa para limpiar el pescado y agua para limpiarlo. Viene la gente a pescar acá, y aquí está la bahía, y adelante pueden ver la salida hacia el mar. Bastante bonito acá. Aquí pueden observar las casas al frente de aquí del lugar este, y los bellos prados verdes aquí. Entonces sigamos por acá. Podemos observar una hermosura por acá de murales de aquí de este lugar. Y entonces este es el nombre del lugar aquí. Se llama Gumbo Limbo Environmental Complex, y es auspiciado por la ciudad de Boca Ratón. Ok, seguimos viendo los murales. aquí tenemos la garza y las tortugas, que es donde ellos se enfocan más que todo. Esta es una hermosura de mural aquí, bien bonito. Y aquí seguimos viéndola, muchos más. Es una hermosura de murales, realmente llama la atención. Bueno, aquí tenemos esculturas de las tortugas. Bien, les agradezco la compañía que me están brindando. Espero poderlos ver en el próximo video. No olviden de suscribirse y seguir viendo pues los videos hasta el final. Un abrazo pues, que el Señor los bendiga y será pues hasta que nos volvamos a encontrar en el próximo. Bye bye.